Yo, 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 what's going on, everybody? My name is Rob Carmona, and welcome back to another episode of Rob the Mic. So, since last week, a couple things went down. I kind of want to go over just kind of what I went through, and then we're going to jump into this week's topic. So, I don't know what it is, but I do have a lot of November birthdays. So, we're going to start off with that. I had my grandma's birthday on Thursday, which was pretty rad. It was a good day overall. Usually, we just kind of chill out at the house. We have dinner, have cake. And this year was a little different. I think for multiple reasons, not just because the way we treated her birthday, but I think just because of the people that were involved. We started off, went to go have lunch, chilled out, which we never do. It's very, very rare that as a family we go out to go have lunch. So we went to go have lunch. We had a great time. She wanted to go to Chili's, so we took her to Chili's. And I honestly, I don't know how. It was really great. Like, our server was really great. The experience was really great overall. And she was really happy. She left with a smile on her face, and I haven't seen her like that in a really long time. So once we got back, my mom and I took off to go get her cake. We got her a really, really, really rad cake. And moving on to the nighttime, we figured it was going to be a little difficult because it's her first birthday without her son. Her son being my uncle, Alfredo, who passed in July. So we were all trying to like mentally prepare for the things that were coming, right? Like the birthdays that had followed, the holidays that were coming up. Like my mom's was really tough for that same reason. And somehow things just kind of worked out, and they were really, really nice. My aunt came over, my grandma had some of her friends come by, and it was cool. Like, we just chilled out, we talked, we laughed. And I think that was the key thing, is that we were able to laugh as much as we did, and that she was able to go to bed happy. At least for the most part, like as happy as we could possibly make her. Granted, she's going to be dealing with her own stuff, right? Like mentally, just everything that she is dealing with personally. There's only so much that we can do, help and walk her through, right? But at least on the outside and what we could do, we did everything in our power to make sure that she was happy. That was a really rad day in general. And it was nice to be with family and to have the friends that were sending love and just saying like, hey, tell grandma I said happy birthday. Tell grandma I said happy birthday. Because the thing is, you guys, like a lot of the people that are in my life are very much in my life. Like they're wrapped in every single thing that I do. The birthdays that come around, any events, anything, usually there is some sort of like friend here. There is somebody here. Because for the most part, I even feel weird saying friends because they're not my friends. Like they really are my family. So there's always somebody here. And it was really great to do it that way. And it ended up being really last minute, because she was pretty dead set on not doing anything. She's like, I don't want to have a cake. I don't want to do anything for my birthday. I just want to stay home and just do nothing. So as much as we wanted to do something, we were trying to respect her wishes. But last minute, she was like, you know what? I want to do something. I want to do something. So we're like, okay, cool. It's your day. Whatever you want. We're here for it. We're here to support you. We're here to help you. We want you to feel loved, cared for, and everything in between. So I'm glad we were able to do that. And then on Friday, I actually had another birthday to celebrate, which, not that I wasn't planning on celebrating this specific birthday, but I kind of wasn't. And I did what I felt was right in my heart. So I went, celebrated another birthday, at least to a certain extent, not like the full day, but a portion of it. And then moved to Saturday. Well, and also, you know what? On Friday, I think I was going through it. Like emotionally, a lot of things started to kind of weigh in on me, just between family, past situations that I was dealing with. Well, past/current, right? Because I'm still kind of processing certain emotions. But it ended up being a day that I needed to just kind of slow down. I did what I had to do in the first half of the day. And then once I got home, I just kind of chilled. And I was like, you know what? I was trying to make plans so bad, like to get out of the house to go do something. And then I was like, you know what? You have that weird like realization where you're like, you know what? I need to stay home. I need to stay home. I need to think. I need to kind of be with myself. So I ended up taking the rest of Friday to do that, which I'm glad that I did. Because then moved to Saturday, I had another birthday to celebrate, which was a buddy of mine, Sid. We went out to a brewery, went to Brewery X in Anaheim. It was really cool. A lot of his homies showed up. So it was probably close to like 20 plus people there. We had a great time. It was cold. For the first time, like being out and about, I was able to experience being cold. And granted, Southern California cold is not like what a lot of you guys are experiencing, because I know I have a lot of homies who listen in like Pacific Northwest and the East Coast, even out in the Midwest. And I know you guys experience like cold. So for us, as soon as we start to hit like the 60s, we're like, oh damn, it hits the 50s, like everybody panic. 40s, forget it. It's dead people everywhere. So I got to experience a little bit of that, which was awesome. But just that whole experience, like getting to celebrate birthday was really cool. And I haven't had that in a really long time. So I'm glad. And honestly, I'm really happy that Sid included me on Saturday, because he had told me about it a few weeks prior, and he knew everything that was going on. The funerals I was attending, just where my life was at the moment. And he's like, dude, look, I don't want you to feel pressured. I'm not trying to put anything on your plate, but I just want to let you know on this day, I'm going to celebrate my birthday, and I'd love it if you could come. So it's not that I was planning on not going, but I really wasn't mentally there. And honestly, when I was there, it was really tough, because it's not that I didn't want to be around a lot of people, but I kind of didn't want to be around a lot of people. But I told myself to just try it. Worst come to worst, I can leave. It would be like the 80s goth night situation, right? Where I'd go try it, and then if I didn't want to be there, I could leave. So it was the same type of thing. So I went, put myself out of my comfort zone, and it ended up working out for the better. So I'm glad that I went. It worked out. So moving on to Sunday, I just woke up. I was pretty beat. I went to sleep really late. Same thing. I was still kind of processing Friday. I was just kind of thinking. I was like in a really pensive state when I got home. Like I showered and I just kind of laid in bed, and I was just like thinking about everything. So I went to sleep pretty late, move on to Sunday, got up late, chilled out, and just kind of took the first half of the day. And then I hit up my buddy Zoe, and I was like, yo, dude, you know what? There's a street fair that's going on in LA, and let's roll out. If you're down, let's roll out. Like, I know he had just got back from Vegas, because he was out at SEMA doing his thing. And I wasn't going to be able to go this year because of my grandma's birthday. Like that alone, like that was more than enough reason just to not be there. And honestly, she had asked even before we had celebrated her stuff, that she wanted us to be together. Regardless of what happened, she wanted us to be together. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to, like my career moves and my stuff like that. Like I can put all that on hold. Like my family's got to come first, especially my grandma. If it comes to my grandma and my mom, nothing else. They got to come first, So Zoe ended up saying, yeah. He's like, yeah, bro, let's roll. Give me like 30 minutes. I'll be ready. I said, cool, let's head out. So I go pick him up. We dip. And it was a cool little street festival. And it's held at a gallery that's out in LA. And they have a couple things throughout the year, whether it's like gallery showings or like they're starting to do a little more like street fairs and stuff, which is really cool. And man, I really enjoyed myself. We weren't there for a long time, but I really enjoyed myself. Like all the vendors that were there were really cool, super down to earth. Between food and like art, graffiti, clothing, like there was everything, pins, just all kinds of stuff. And the cool thing is like once you went inside, they also had like ofrendas there too. So everyone was kind of setting up their altars. Not everyone, but there were certain people that went and set up their altars. So between just the whole experience of going to see artists and culture, and then just kind of getting to see that and kind of sit in it for a minute, it was really great. It was something I needed. And it was tight because there was a couple pieces for Waxer that were up. Somebody had done a really badass painting. So like that was cool to see. And then it was cool to see just how they set up the ofrenda and like everything, like the time and patience that people have to do that is incredible. Because honestly, I think it's one of the hardest things to do. It's like recently I went to my cousin's place and he had done something for Dia de los Muertos. And it's just the time and the patience that he took to set that up. And I think it's really tough because as you're setting up these photos, these are all people who have passed. So you're sitting there just like reminiscing. You're trying to pay respects and trying to keep it together. But it's a hard thing to do. So getting to be in this space and also seeing somebody that I knew in the ofrenda was really hard. But I was glad to see that they're paying respects to these people. And what was really cool too is when I had posted a picture of the ofrenda, I had focused on, of course, on Waxer, who was a part of it. And a buddy of mine, Danny, had messaged me and was like, "Oh, dude, like you got one of my homies in the photo." I was like, "Oh man, that's rad. Like, that's cool, bro. Like, I'm glad." I'm like, and I didn't know. It was like a random DM from a homie. So it's just the whole experience was really positive. It was cool. And also I was going there to support one of my buddies because he has a company and he sells pins, clothing. It's called Move in Silence. So it was tight to see him because it had been a little while since I'd gone out to an event for him. So I was able to pick up some new gear, catch up for a couple minutes. And he has some stuff coming up too over the next few weeks. So I'm going to try and catch up with him some more. But it's just rad, man, to be in that space. There's something about it. And it feels empowering. It's inspiring. And it left me feeling so good. Because when we left the spot, we were dipping out. I dropped Zoe off and I got home and I just kind of felt good. I don't know why. Like, I don't really know how to explain it to you guys. Like, I just felt good. Like, I wanted to do something. I wanted to create. I wanted to jump back into this headspace that I've kind of been talking to you guys about, right? Like about making changes, about shifting and doing all that. Because I feel like right now is very much a time to do that. It's very much a time to shift. It's a time to change. I think as the holidays come around, especially for myself, holidays and my birthday are the times that I think about life in my general position the most. It's a time for reflection. It's, as much as people look at it as a negative thing, I think we need to set apart the time to do that. Because you need to look at where you're at personally, professionally, everything. Look at every aspect of your life. Step back, because I think it's a time to be thankful. I think it's a time to realize like we're here for a reason, whatever that reason may be. I think our purpose is always to be determined, right? But this is a time for me right now to just step back and view everything as a whole and see what's up. But moving on to yesterday, actually, we'll go to yesterday because, coming into that, it left me with a lot to think about, a lot to process. So sometimes when I have my therapy sessions, I like to go in with my notes and I'm just like, "Hey, Paul, these are the things I want to talk to you about today. Cause this, and this happened. And it kind of left me feeling like this and this." So I had my notes together. I had myself together. I was ready for therapy yesterday. And unfortunately, I had the same situation as Halloween. So or last Tuesday, which was another no call, no show. I reached out to BetterHelp and we're trying to get the situation sorted out right now. So I don't really know what's going to happen. I may or may not be shifting therapists, but I had the same situation as last week. I didn't feel as anxious or as kind of as towering of a feeling as I did, where I was like, "Oh, I have to talk to him. So I just I went through it with myself. Once I got through a certain point where I was like waiting and he wasn't showing up, I had reached out, I shut everything down and I just kind of sat with myself and I was like, "Okay, let's work through it. Let's work through it the way that I know how. Let's start using some of the tools that I have." So went through it again, got myself through it and it felt good. And so what I ended up doing, pushing through the day the best way that I could, right? Still process certain things. And as I went through the night, I still kind of thought about things, but everything takes time. But what was cool is I pushed myself to go to 240 Tuesday, which is my buddy Sid's event. And I didn't go last month because I just couldn't. It was bad timing, just couldn't fucking do it. But this month I was like, I want to do it. And I reached out to a buddy of mine, Sebastian. He ended up coming out. His buddy Scott was here from Connecticut, which was cool. And he's also a car guy. So he got to experience our culture out here and see what it is, especially on the S chassis side, like for 240s and just like lowered cars in general. Like I always love exposing people to that scene and like the current scene, which is really dope because you have a really big misconception of like car culture, right? Like you have the whole takeover culture, which is massive and it's all over the news. And it's like, dude, we're not like that. Not everybody's like that. Like some of us really do like to cruise on the freeway, just low, listening to music, kicking back. And that's it. And it was cool for both of them, like my buddy Sebastian and Scott, to experience that. Because for Sebastian, granted, he knew I was into cars. I've always been into cars. So whenever I got to take him to events with me, Like I remember taking him to a hella flush years ago, right? Which for those of you guys who are in car culture, you probably don't even remember the last time you heard hella flush, because we're talking back in the day, you know, shit, 20, maybe like 09, 10, 11, like just around that general time, you know, it was different. It was a different time, dude. Different time. But him getting to experience this right now, because we disconnected and then reconnected, and he's like, dude, fuck, man, like this is really dope. Like you kept going with it. I was like, yeah, man, like this is my life. This is my life. It's a big part of it. A lot of these people that I have throughout that are set in my network are from this part of my life, are from automotive culture. And I'm very, very thankful for that. You know, and it took work. It took work. It took time. It took investing to get to where I'm at. But again, I don't regret a single minute of it, because cars brought a lot of things, a lot of people, a lot of experiences into my life that there's no way, if I would have left the automotive world, there's no way I would have experienced this. No way. Like, who knows where I'd be right now, but I wouldn't trade it. Wouldn't trade it. And I'm glad I got to share it. Just all the laughs, the food, everything. So last night took a turn for the better. And then on the way home, I started to like think a little bit, and I kind of got down, but then I was able to come back up, which is cool. And I have to remind myself is like to not push those things down, not push those feelings away. Feel them, sit in them for a minute, process them, and then just kind of let it pass. Right? It's like we were talking about last week, where it's the whole like this too shall pass mentality, where it can be momentarily, it can be by the day, but eventually these things will pass. But you have to let them pass. I think if you sit there and you kind of like, you hold up a roadblock, there's no way it can pass that. There's no way. And I have to let it flow. So I think a big part of what I want to talk to you guys about today is just kind of refocusing energies, and where I'm trying to put myself is just somewhere different right now. And I think I'm trying to find things that make me happy again. That's a really, really big one, whether it's my art, whether it's spending time with certain people. Like I'm really trying to find what truly makes me happy, because with all the perspective that I've gained in the last few months, since July, I would say, like a very specific timeline, right? Like since July, I think not that I didn't realize how precious life was or how precious time was, but I've definitely gained, again, a new perspective. So me having to sit with myself and say, okay, what actually makes you smile? What makes you happy? Like I never really think about these type of things. I think a lot of us don't think about that. We just kind of do stuff, and sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're not, whatever, but sometimes you just float about life. But it's like, what really makes you happy? What really makes you happy? So I'm reassessing. I'm reassessing, like, where do I want to spend my time? Who do I want to be with? And I'm really starting to see who makes me happy. What makes me happy? What places make me the happiest? Right? Like I've shared with you guys before, like I love being out in nature. I missed a trip this past weekend, but I got a couple coming up in the next few weeks I'm really excited about. So I need to put more time into that. Because I love it. I need it for sure. So that's just an example. The work that I'm putting up, right, that I'm putting into my personal Instagram, and not just Instagram, but the work that I create in general, right? So the photography, the video, any sort of creative stuff, like pushing and putting more time into that, because some of those projects really do make me happy. Not everything. I can't say everything does, but certain things that bring me joy, I need to put time into that. And also what I need to do, which I realized Friday, a little bit of Saturday, some of Sunday, is that I need to take days of rest and moments of rest just to kind of slow down, be with my thoughts and emotions, because not all the time, but I do sometimes just try to fill my time and get busy and be busy. And it can be with anything, whether it's stuff I'm doing for work or whether it's just stuff around the house. And you can't always do that, because you start to just kind of push it away, and it falls by the wayside. And I don't want to process it later. I want to process it right now. I want to process it in the moment. And I need to be careful with that, because again, I used to do that for such a long time, not with everything, but there were certain things I just wasn't ready to deal with at that moment. So I would just kind of, okay, let's be busy. Let's just not think about it. And then eventually it creeps up, right? So it's a really bad thing to do. But I need to allow myself more this time. And it used to feel really uncomfortable, at the beginning because I didn't want to be in my head. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to be with myself. I'd rather be kicking it with Albert or kicking it with Sebastian or something like that. And even if I talk about it with them, I was just like, I don't want to be alone. And granted, sometimes you don't want to be alone, and you're entitled to that. You can be with whoever you want to be with. But I also do really think it's important for you to spend time with yourself and get to know with yourself and just kind of familiarize yourself with your emotions, with everything that kind of makes you tick, because we forget, especially nowadays. Life moves so quick. And I think here specifically, like in California, we move so fast all the time, and we're just kind of go, 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 go. It's like, where's the time for you? Where's the time for your emotions, for your feelings, for your happiness? And you have to reassess. And again, for me, investing time into my creative work is a really healthy output, because I can do something and then just sit here with it, process it, go through the photos, go through the videos, and just and make something beautiful out of it. And I know that certain things are starting to be expressed, and I'm finding where I fit and just where I make myself happy, because the things that I'm creating right now and the time that I'm putting into this investment, it's not to grow. It's not to do anything like that. Like from a social standpoint, I'm posting what I love, and I'm getting back to that, because I remember when I first started Instagram, I used to post literally the most horrible photos. And obviously it's cool from a professional standpoint to see the progression over the years, but I really enjoyed it back then. If I was having a really bomb ice cream, I'd post a picture of an ice cream. Like if I was doing something with my friends, like I'd post a picture of it. You know, if it was someone's birthday, post a picture of it. Like just things that made me happy. Anything that made me happy, I put it up on there. And I stopped that. And granted, my work is still heavily curated right now, but it's curated now, like the past few weeks, with things that make me happy. Places I really enjoyed myself, events that I really loved. So that's what I need to do. And that's what I'm going to continue doing, is just keep doing it for me. And if something comes of it, if someone wants me to, for example, shoot their car, or if they have a house they want to sell and they're like, Rob, like I really like your video work, I want you to shoot my house. Great. Let's do that. Or, hey, dude, I really love your design work. Like I had no idea you did that type of stuff. You know, can you do something for me? Like right now, I have another project that popped up for a buddy, and he has a big Rubicon trip that goes down every year. And I'm actually going to be designing a piece for them. Well, a piece for him that he's going to be distributing to the other guys, which is really exciting. And it's been a while since I've done a soft good like this. Like I'm going to be doing a hat, but I'm designing a patch that's going to be sewn onto the hat. So I'm really excited about that, and just kind of working through that process and getting to see what that is. And I'm excited, but that's where I need to be. And with, if something great comes from it, again, like experiences like that, amazing. Let's hit it. Let's keep going. So refocusing, looking at my investments has been the best thing for me right now. And also, I think the last thing I want to talk about within that is just adjusting my circle of people, because that's also happening right now too. And it's like unintentional, but I'm noticing that certain people I'm starting to kind of go away from, because I'm not finding the same sort of stimulation. I'm not finding the same sort of growth, love. Like certain things just aren't being reciprocated. And I think it's normal, right? Like as we get older, I think as we change, as we experience things, sometimes it makes you, again, take a step back, and you're like, all right, well, maybe these people aren't working for me anymore. And it's nothing personal. It's nothing against them. But again, I think as we get older, things start to shift, and you really start to see who's investing in you just as much as you're investing in them. And like I've talked about it before, and I think I talked about it last week as well, but I know I've talked about this before, where it's like you have to look at the relationships. If you're constantly the one that's reaching out and checking in and doing this, doing that, but no one's doing that for you, you have to realize all you're doing is essentially spending your emotional money. Like banks work like this, right? Like you put your money into the bank does their thing with your money, but it's always there. There's always some sort of return investment. There's always something going down. There's an exchange happening at all times, but nothing's putting back into you. And maybe a bank was a bad example, but You guys get what I'm trying to say, that there's some sort of return. There's an exchange. There's investments being made in some way, shape, or form. And, or I guess more so like the stock market, right? I mean, granted, and people can be like the stock market too, because you can invest a lot into somebody and then all of a sudden it tanks and then you lose everything. So maybe the stock market's a better analogy. But for this, again, I'm starting to realize, and like I tell you guys, think about it, because you're spending so much. And if nothing's being returned, sometimes you got to just pull your money out. You got to pull out everything out. And you're like, you know what? I can't do this. I gotta dip. This investment isn't working for me anymore. Or maybe you were investing $100. Maybe I'm going to cut it down to 50. And then if you see that's still not working, maybe cut it down to 25. And if that's not working, then you completely got to cut that. So that's what I'm kind of doing with certain people in my life right now too, is just kind of readjusting my investments, because I'm also noticing that other people deserve more because they really do care. So it's like, you know what? Certain investments I'm starting to kick up. Maybe I had 25 in there. Next thing you know, I'm doing 50, 75, 100. Sometimes for some of these relationships, I'm putting in even more because they deserve it. And I really see it. I see the effort. I see the love. I see the time. I see everything that they put into it. And it's everything that I am putting into it now too. So that's been really exciting. I know it sounds kind of messed up to say it's exciting, but it is exciting because it means that I'm experiencing growth. And the thing is that I'm seeing it and I'm feeling it and that I'm living it like one-to-one. And I had a friend tell me the other day, he said, bro, you know what? Listening to your podcasts and talking to you and seeing you, he's like, I'm seeing a difference like in you as a person compared to months ago. You know, when you started the weeklies, like you're in a really, really different place now. Like, I'm proud of you, man. It's like, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. He's like, and the fact that you're diving as deep as you are, that's you're going into something and subjects that like people don't really want to talk about. And especially within the automotive industry, I think it's different, right? Like guys are very different. They're very macho. You have that whole like machismo thing going through this whole scene. And it's really, just really bad. It's really, really bad, you know? And I got a bone to pick with all that. But again, to close that part is just adjusting my circle has been a really big part of my focus right now. And I'm glad that I'm doing it right now. And I'm sure I'll do it again at some point, but it needs it right now. So I got to do it. And I think a big part, like mental health is getting talked about a lot right now within my network, like for men. And I think a big part of this whole, like men's mental health in general, is just kind of finding yourself, making the time to find yourself. I think you need to, like I was just talking about, like adjusting your circle, but create a circle of people that you trust with your emotions, that you can be vulnerable with. Create the safe space, right? Like we've talked about a bunch on the show, but it's so important. I think guys are scared to share their emotions. And it's like, why are you afraid? And I've said it before. I remember one time on the show here, like I said, it's super aggressive. Like I was like, oh, you don't want to share your emotions? Like it makes you a bitch. Like a 10 out of 10 does not make you a bitch. I was just very bitter that day. But I do think you need to share them. I think it's very important. I think you have to. And if you're afraid of sharing it with your homies, if you're afraid of being vulnerable with them, then are they really your homies? Do those people really care? Because if you turn around and tell them like, yo, dude, like I'm feeling sad. And if your boy turns around and tells you like, stop being a bitch, you know, it's statements like that and things like that in those moments that cause men to completely shut down, because they already know right off top. They're just like, I can't say anything. And what if they're really going through it? What if your boy's really, really going through it and they actually needed you in that moment and they just needed someone to push them over the ledge, and then that did? Because then now they feel truly alone. And it's a major issue right now. Major issue. So if you got homies, which I'm sure a lot of you guys listening do, make time for them, listen to them, check up on them. It's like I was talking about, you know, check up on your homies. Check up on your homies. You'd be surprised. Shoot a text. Hey, bro, I'm thinking about you. Hope you're having a great day. You know, what's up? Let's get lunch sometime. Let me know when you're free. Those types of things, they go miles. Even just, not even like to that extent, even just to send a text, bro, thinking about you, you know, have a great day. Love you. Bye. You know, like I know for myself, I really try to make those things a point of my weeks where I go and I look through my Rolodex in a way, and I go through my names and I'm like, okay, who haven't I checked up on in the last like week or so, or in the last like 2 weeks or something? Who haven't I talked to in a while? Okay, cool. Let me shoot a quick text. Hey, boom, boom, boom. Love you. Thinking about you. Hope you have a great one. Boom. Because that's all it takes. That's all it takes. It's just real quick, and speak up. Don't be afraid to speak up. Because I'm telling you, someone's always willing to listen. And for those of you guys, if you feel, anybody, this isn't just for the guys who are listening to the show. This is for anyone listening to the show. If you guys feel alone, you feel that you need to talk to somebody and you want to talk to a person, you can reach out to me. You can DM me, whether it's on the podcast account, on my personal account, whichever. I'm here to listen. I might not have all the answers, but I'm here to listen. And if there's a certain point where, for example, you guys want to ask me about my therapy or the service that I use or anything like that, I can give you guys info on that. Anything I can do to help, I will do my best. And again, I can't fix all your problems. I can't. I wish I could. I wish I could take everything from you guys, all the pain that you guys feel, everything that you guys are dealing with. I wish I could take it and just fucking toss it out the window. But that's not it. But again, pointed at the male audience, I want you guys to really think about it. Think about your homies. Think about your circle. Like, are you safe? Do you feel comfortable? Do you have at least somebody? Because if the circle is really about, like, everyone's just kind of on some joke shit and it's like super judgy and it's like, the whole, like I was just saying, we're like, oh, stop being a bitch. Like, that's not homies, right? Like, they're the ones that are going to turn around. They're going to tell you, bro, just sit here, take a shot. Dude, that doesn't fix your problems. None of that stuff fixes your problems. Any sort of substance abuse, any sort of like people who push you in that direction or who just kind of want to be on that whole suppressive life, like, it's not the move. It's not the move. I'll tell you right now. And I think what also points down a hard path too, which is kind of I think it's still kind of taboo to talk about. I think just the whole idea of suicide, because I've dealt with it quite a bit in the past few months. And honestly, throughout my life in general, I've had quite a few people take their own lives. And it's a really scary thing to process, because you have to be, you put yourself in the darkest of places and you really do feel like there's no exit. Like, you're not going to come out on top. And no matter what you do, no matter who you talk to, nothing's going to fix it. And I'm not going to say it's simple, because it's not. I've also known quite a few people who have attempted and didn't succeed. And I'm really thankful that they didn't succeed. And some of them were like very serious. Some of them were just in their head about it. And again, attempts, and they didn't work out. And I'm really thankful, really, really thankful for all those people that are still here. But for the ones who went through with it, it's hard. Again, I've been dealing with it. I have homies that have been dealing with it recently. It's the saddest thing to do. I think it leaves you in a really ugly place. You start thinking, start going on these ugly rabbit holes, but reach out to people. Reach out to the ones that you love. Reach out to the ones that you care for. Reach out to anyone. Just talk to somebody. Just talk to somebody, because you'd be surprised. And for those of you who are, if you're in a really rough state and you are toying with the idea of suicide, depending on what's going down, if you need to talk to somebody and it's an emergency, you can always text or call 988. You can go to the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, which is 988lifeline.org. Again, that's 988lifeline.org. Or again, you can dial, text 988 directly. And again, talk to someone. If you don't feel safe, you don't feel comfortable talking to someone in your network, do it. Reach out to this hotline, because I know people who have, and I know it's been really helpful for them. And again, if you're looking to talk to someone to go further down the line, explore it, check it out. Between BetterHelp, like I know for myself, it's been great. Granted, yes, my last 2 weeks, I know some of the people are gonna be like, well, what happened last 2 weeks? Like, yeah, I know, I've been dealing with that myself. But regardless, the self-work and the direction that I kind of put myself on that path has helped me out a lot. So if you guys are feeling in a really dark spot, you feel like everything's kind of closing in on you, there are so many options out there. So many options to help to just make you feel and see a light. Because it's like we talked about, it's the whole this too shall pass, where eventually it does. These emotions kind of pass. And sometimes it does feel like the wave is too big, but I promise you, it's always worth it. It's always worth it to be here. There's one person that cares. There's always going to be at least one person that cares and that wants you here. And I promise you, it's probably more than that. It's probably more than that. It's never the answer. Doesn't matter how bad things get. It's never the answer. And I think something that doesn't get talked about too is the other side of it. The people who are left behind. Those of us who have to process what just happened and the whys and all these things. And you're left with all these really ugly questions that you're never going to get answers to. Even if there's like a suicide note or something like that, it's still, I don't feel like there's a sense of closure. But I think at that point you leave it up to like life's, like one of life's many mysteries, right? You never know. But you're never going to really know people. You're never going to know who they are. You're never going to know what happens behind closed doors. I think we're all different. We all have certain things that we do, or it's just people are so interesting. So interesting. But you got to be real careful, man, especially with the holidays coming around. You guys, I know it's a tough time. I know for myself, for my family, the people around me, it's going to be a tough one this year. We've lost a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. So it's going to be a lot of reflection, a lot of this, a lot of that. But I think you gotta keep it tight knit. Keep it tight knit, whether it's with the homies, with family, like people that you care about. Make sure that's the number one thing I want you guys to think about is make sure that the people around you are the people that you care about and nothing less. If you don't really get along with your family or something's going down, but you feel close with your homies, feel closer with your homies, spend the time with them. Reach out, ask. Don't be afraid to ask. If you're going to be alone this Thanksgiving, don't be alone this Thanksgiving. Reach out to the homies. Hey, what are you doing right now? What are you doing today? Because I bet you more often than not, somebody's going to turn around and be like, hey, come through. Why? Because you ain't going to be alone, baby. Come have some turkey. Come have some mac and cheese. Like, come kick it with the family. We're just going to be playing games, whatever. Because I know for myself, with my homies, I always do that. I always extend. I'm like, hey, don't be alone. If you feel like you're going to be alone, if you feel sad, or you don't want to be at home, let's say you're with your family, things go south, call me after. Come through the house. You already know we're going to be just straight kicking it in a food coma. Like, that's what's up. Don't be afraid to reach out through any of the holidays. Reach out to people. Talk to people. Talk to your homies. Talk to anybody. Just speak up. That's the number one. Just speak up. Because speaking up will make a difference. You'd be surprised how many people are so welcoming and out there open their arms for it, And I think my bit of advice for the week, and I say I think because I was trying to go through different words and different things, and I was like, man, I don't even know where this is going to end up. But my bit of advice is just to take a moment to reflect. Use this time, use these weeks, use these holidays that are coming up, reflect. I think more so before the holidays. Take the time. Look at how you see things, view your life, step back a little bit. Because you might see some things you need to change. And maybe it's hard to admit, maybe it's hard to see. But again, the change and where it puts us is where we're actually supposed to be. We are meant to evolve as people. We are meant to evolve as humans. So if you've been in the same state for X amount of time, something's up. Something's up. Reevaluate. Step back, look at things, check it out, because it might be time for a shift. But I thank you guys for tuning in this week. I hope this episode had some little gems that you could pull from it. Hopefully it starts some conversations, especially for the guys out there that are listening right now. And this also goes for anyone who's listening. If you have certain men in your life, I hope this episode, and the reason why I say certain men, because we all know who I'm talking about. It's just certain guys that don't want to say anything, don't want to talk about it. Maybe start opening the door. And hopefully this episode gives you certain things, certain topics that you can start to open those doors, connect with your homies, connect with your family, connect with the people that you love and that you care for, and let them know too. Never stop letting people know that you love them. Never stop letting people know that you care for them, because those are the things that keep people moving. They keep people going every single day in the hardest of moments, in the hardest of times. We all need to hear it, that we're loved and that we're cared for. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you think you are. Everybody wants to feel loved and cared for. So do that. Be a beacon of light. Be a beacon of good, of positivity. Spread that. Spread those things. Because I promise you, it's going to come back to you. It's going to come back to you. So I appreciate y'all. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, a beautiful rest of your week. And I will catch you guys on the next episode.